It's Trump who's doing the fact check, but I can't believe David Muir had the nerve to say this about the crime stats. Watch this. Stop 9.
Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud.
That is totally correct. What Trump said in response. He was having to fact check the moderator, gents. Fact check the moderator. Not only is he right, they did remove the major cities, several of them, from that crime study that was referenced. But on top of that, the decrease in violent crimes is looking at all post George Floyd. If you want to compare present year to 2019, pre George Floyd, there is not. We are not down. We are up considerably. And Heather McDonald has been pointing this out and pointing out, if you want to go back even further and look at the Ferguson effect after 2014 and compare where we were prior to Ferguson versus now, again, we've skyrocketed, none of which would be offered by David Muir. But what do you make of the fact that Trump had to fact check not only Kamala, but the moderators?
It didn't help that, as Trump always does, he then extends and his own kind of apocalyptic hyperbole, right? So he's 4 different ways to answer a question to make it soft on her. He gives moderators, especially ones who are keyed up through what I think is peer pressure, really, from their colleagues industrially, to be sort of tough on Trump so he doesn't abuse his platform. When he says, our country is being destroyed, Israel is going to cease to exist in 2 years, which he said that Kamala is a communist, his dad's a communist, Joe Biden hates her. A lot of these are like jokes. Doesn't know he's alive. Doesn't know that was funny. So like he's giving, in addition to that fact check there, and I take your word for it, Megyn, of his depiction of it, but he's also saying these other things, and so it I think dulls the impact, right? Donald Trump is never going to come across as the person who's going to be the biggest truth teller on any stage, and especially towards the end when he knew, I think, that he was kind of scrambling for keeping his head above water in this debate. He sped up and he kept getting more and more hyperbolic in his statements in a way that it just becomes hard to take him seriously. And I think even in those things that he was saying about Kamala Harris, she was skillful in not taking the bait herself. She could have said, "Oh no, my dad's not communist." She's like left.
She left that there. She left a bunch of stuff there, which was very wise.
She's not capable.
Yeah, well,
it was smart, but she's not capable of doing it. She was like, "That is not part of my rote memorization. What card is that on? I do not have it."
There were 2 grades that we were talking about last night. The one on substance and on style, and I think she did well on style. She backed up and she didn't fall on her face like we thought we were going to do. She was going to do. But if you look at the David Muir question, there's actually the first 4 or 5 words are the key to it. I mean, people kind of forget this. He said, "Mr. President, as you know," which is a blatant accusation of lying. I mean, the thing is that there's a number of ways, and again, like Matt, I haven't looked at this stuff and looked at it recently. I'm trusting your take on it, Megyn. But there's a number of ways of looking at these statistics, right? Going back to 1993 in New York when there were over 2,000 murders, like, oh, it's down. It's like, yes, but down, where's your starting point? So you can be generous in some sense and say, you're interpreting this a different way. But if you look at it this way, Mr. President, but you're just going out of the block and saying, as you know, Mr. President, that is incorrect. I don't think you should do that as a moderator. I'm sorry. But
let me give you some stats. Let me give you some stats because we had Heather